Everyone wants to be rich, right? And if they aren't rich, they want people to think they are. There are some people, though, who make money in their sleep. They'll never have to work another day in their life if they don't feel like it, because they already have more money than they'll ever spend in a lifetime. When you think of rich people, you might picture someone living in Manhattan or Silicon Valley, but did you know that according to Forbes magazine, Illinois has 17 billionaires? In this video, we're going to take a look at the richest people in the land of Lincoln based on the figures from the Forbes website as of the recording of this video. The markets do fluctuate daily, so the order today may not be the same as next week or next month. Question of the day. How many billionaires on the Forbes list do you think belong to the Pritzker family? Be sure to watch to the end for the answer. Number 10. Patrick Ryan. Patrick Ryan came from Milwaukee in the 1950s to attend business school at Northwestern University. After graduation, he started his career as a life insurance salesman with Penn Mutual. A short while later, he started the first finance and insurance department at a Chevy dealership in one of the suburbs of Chicago. 2 years later, with his knowledge of insurance in the automotive sales industry, he started his own company, Pat Ryan and Associates. His company trained insurance agents and placed them in auto dealerships. 4 years later, he bought an insurance company so he could take on the underwriting of the insurance products he sold. This took his business from being a local company to being nationwide. Ryan continued to buy up agencies and companies, and today he is worth $3.3 billion. This is up from $2.9 billion in March 2020 and $3.195 billion in June 2020. However, in 2020 he was in the number 6 spot, and this year he's number 10. Number 9. J.B. Pritzker. Last year, J.B. Pritzker was the 4th richest Illinoisan at $3.414 billion in June 2020, but he's been bumped down several spots to number 9. Forbes lists him at $3.4 billion, so they're showing that he's lost around $14 million from his net worth. Pritzker got his money the old-fashioned way. He inherited it. His uncle and father founded the Hyatt hotel chain and made enough money from that to make the Pritzkers the 15th richest family in the world, with over $33 billion spread out amongst the family members. Being born into a privileged family meant that JB was given the stereotypical silver spoon childhood, complete with boarding school in another state and his choice of colleges. He earned a BA in political science from Duke and a law degree from Northwestern. He's co-founded a few different companies, including Pritzker Group Private Capital, but he decided that he would try to put his poli-sci degree to use and go into politics, because that's where the real power is. He ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in 1998, but he came in third. He served as co-chair of Hillary Rodham Clinton's presidential campaign in 2008. He was a delegate to the DNC twice. In 2017, he was caught on tape basically asking disgraced former governor Rod Blagojevich to make him state treasurer, so that caused a scandal. Then he decided to think bigger and funneled his own money into his gubernatorial campaign. It's difficult for anyone to compete against that kind of money when name recognition is a contributor to getting votes, and he was able to plaster ads everywhere. He easily won the primary and went up against the incumbent governor, Bruce Rauner, who also happens to be extremely wealthy. Maybe next time we could try not picking an ultra-rich guy for either party in the primaries? It's a radical idea, I know. Food for thought. Number 8. Ty Warner. Do you remember the Beanie Baby craze of the 90s? People went crazy over stuffed bears and other beanbag toys. Couples went on the TV show Divorce Court to divide up their prized collections. It was insane, and it made Mr. Warner a rather sizable fortune. You see, he's the founder and CEO of Ty Inc., which makes and distributes Beanie Babies and various other stuffed animals. That's not bad for a backup plan. Originally, he wanted to be an actor, but he didn't have that it factor that makes some people a star. After 5 years in Hollywood, he came back home to Illinois and went to work as a toy salesman alongside his father. However, he was fired from that job when they discovered that he was allegedly selling his own products to retail stores alongside the products of his employer. He took 3 years off in Italy, and when he returned to the US, he scraped up every dime that he could and started selling stuffed cats. Then in 1993, he hit upon the idea for Beanie Babies. He also discovered that he could drive up demand for his products by doing such things as arbitrarily discontinuing popular items, shipping fewer items than ordered, and a few other methods, which led to people thinking that the toys were rare and valuable. They ran out and bought as many as they could, and it made Ty Warner a billionaire. Capitalism at its finest. As expected, the bubble eventually burst, and now Beanie Babies have lost most of their appeal as a collector's item. They can be found at garage sales across America every summer. However, Ty Warner is still a very rich man. His net worth went from $2.6 billion to $2.764 billion in 2020, and then again up to $3.7 billion so far in 2021. Number 7. Thomas Pritzker. Thomas Pritzker, like his cousin JB, inherited most of his wealth. His father, Jay, from all accounts, was a very smart man with a knack for business. He enrolled at Northwestern University when he was only 14 years old and earned a bachelor's degree before going on to law school and getting his JD. He then took over the financial operations for his family's law office. He turned that into a company called the Marmon Group Holding Company, and with his brother Robert, built up a portfolio consisting of over 60 corporations. He then started the Hyatt hotel chain with his brother Donald when Thomas Pritzker was 7 years old. Thomas is now the chairman and CEO of the Pritzker organization and the executive chairman of the Hyatt Hotels Corporation. In September 2020, his net worth was estimated to be $3.5 billion. His net worth currently sits at $4.3 billion. Number 6. Mark Walter. Originally a native of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Mark Walter landed in Chicago after college and law school. In the mid-90s, he, along with his business partner, Steve Johnson, founded Liberty Hampshire Company, which is an asset and financial management firm. Just a few years later, Mr. Walter co-founded Guggenheim Partners, which is another financial entity. They work in investment banking, capital markets, and various other broker-dealer services. They also continue to expand by acquiring other companies from different sectors, including the entertainment and sports industries. Mark Walter has been serving as the company's CEO since 2000. Between March and June 2020, his net worth went from $2.7 billion to $3.35 billion. He now has an estimated worth of $4.4 billion. Number 5. Eric Lefkofsky. Forbes lists tech industry insider Eric Lefkofsky's net worth as of February 2021 at $4.5 billion. In March 2020, he had a net worth of $2.7 billion, and by June that year, it was up to $2.732 billion. That means that he's gained almost $2 billion in less than a year. It must be nice to have that kind of wealth, but it took Lefkofsky a while to figure things out. He grew up in Michigan and earned his college degrees from the University of Michigan. After getting his JD, he bought a Wisconsin-based clothing store, and then 6 years later, he created an internet company called Starbelly. Neither company worked out for him. There were lawsuits and bankruptcies. In 2001, he co-founded a company called Inner Workings, serving on the board of directors until 2012. But where the real money came in was the company that he co-founded in 2007. It was originally called ThePoint.com, which is really a lackluster kind of name, so if you aren't familiar with it, it's no surprise. However, you probably know its current name, Groupon. Number 4. Sam Zell. Sam Zell has fallen down 2 spots since last year. He had a net worth of $4.898 billion on June 17, 2020. Forbes is now showing a net worth of $4.9 billion, so he does have slightly more money than he did last year, but his wealth hasn't kept pace with that of his peers. Zell's story is that of a first-generation American living the American dream. He comes from a Jewish family who fled Poland in 1941 to avoid persecution. His parents and older sister settled in Chicago and changed their last name from Zelanka to Zell, and Sam was born shortly thereafter. Like the majority of people on this list, Zell earned a law degree, but he decided after working as a lawyer for only 1 week that that was not the profession for him. Instead, he found that he preferred working in real estate, first as a property manager and then as an owner and investor. He's invested in companies such as Schwinn Bicycle Company, Sealy, and Santa Fe Energy Resources, but one of his most notorious moves involved buying the Chicago Tribune, only to bankrupt it and cause thousands of people to lose their jobs. Number 3. Joe Mansueto. Joe Mansueto was born and raised in Munster, Indiana, but he earned his MBA and bachelor's degrees at the University of Chicago. After grad school, he went to work in finance. While working as a stock analyst, he found that he was having to review reports and analyses from several different fund managers and wanted to make it more streamlined. So he took $80,000 and created the Morningstar Company out of his 1-bedroom apartment. The way I understand it, Morningstar researches funds and other investment vehicles and then makes recommendations as to whether or not it's a good fund to buy into. Mansueto acted as CEO until 2017 when he stepped down. He then started buying up property and assets around Chicago, including the Wrigley Building and the Belden Stratford apartment building. He also owns the Chicago Fire soccer team. According to Forbes, his net worth as of the recording of this is $5.3 billion. This is an increase of wealth from last year when he was worth $2.8 billion in March and then $3.53 billion in June 2020. Number 2. Neil Bloom. Neil Bloom is the rags to riches story come to life. He was raised by a single mother in a tiny apartment in Chicago. His original plan in life was to become a certified public accountant and attorney, so he received his undergrad degree from the U of I in Urbana and then a law degree from Northwestern University. After obtaining his JD, he went to work for a law office in Chicago, where he became a partner. He then co-founded a realty company and started investing in real estate. Not long after, he had a portfolio containing all sorts of properties, including shopping centers, strip malls, hotels, office towers, and residential buildings. What took him from rich to mega rich, though, was casinos and gaming. He co-founded Falls Management Company and Rush Street Gaming to develop casinos and other gaming institutions. Mr. Bloom, like most of the people on this list, managed to become even richer during the last year. Last March, he was worth $3.7 billion. Then in June, he was up to $4.1 billion. According to Forbes, his net worth as of now is $5.8 billion. Number 1. Ken Griffin. When he was 34, Ken Griffin became the youngest self-made individual to make the Forbes 400 list. At that time, he had a net worth of around $650 million. That was 18 years ago, and since then his net worth has increased to $15 billion. As far as I can tell, Griffin has always been a bit of a nerd. He was the president of the math club at his high school in Boca Raton, Florida, and while still a high school student, he ran a discount mail-order education software company out of his bedroom. He went to Harvard University in the late 1980s, and while there, he convinced the administrators to let him put a satellite dish on his building so that he could watch the markets and trade stocks and bonds. After college, he moved to Chicago and became involved in the finance industry. He founded Citadel, an assets management company. Lately, he's been on the receiving end of criticism for contributing to the GameStop Robinhood debacle. But the reason I don't like this dude is that his idea of philanthropy is dumping billions of dollars into super PACs in order to get people who he thinks will let him continue to stockpile money elected. And that's just icky. The people on this list choose to invest most of their money and resources in the Chicago area when they could do some real good with their wealth in the rest of the state. They just choose not to. Now, for the answer to how many Pritzkers are on the Forbes 400 list of billionaires. On the 2020 list, there were 8 members of the family in the top 400. However, there are actually 11 people in that family who are worth at least $1 billion. The crazy thing about having that kind of wealth is that it just keeps growing. Every single person on this list saw their net worth increase at the start of the pandemic when other people were losing everything. These billionaires wouldn't be able to spend all of their money in 10 lifetimes. It makes no sense for me for anyone to be that rich. I'm just thrilled to be middle class, but then again, I grew up in a single-parent household and I know what government cheese tastes like. Thankfully, those days are behind me now. I hope you learned something from this video. I know I learned a little bit from researching it. If you liked it, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I remain stuck in the cornfield.